we have completely different strategies. I was going to different parties. I was a party girl. I was not focused on financial freedom.
Essentially, I went from working full-time and going to school full-time to nothing.
Actually, what I'm canceling in my business right now is out-of-state investing.
I'm feeling most suspicious about Airbnbs or short-term rentals per se.
One in a million, one in a million, one in a million, one in a million.
Hello and welcome to Real Estate House Party. I'm Soli. This is my amazing co-host Leka, and this is the show where we celebrate wins, and we mean big wins, which means that we have to throw an even bigger party. We're talking Super Bowl meets Oprah's birthday party, little college DJ thrown in there. Like, would you go to that party?
I would so go to that party. We believe that there's nothing more exciting than financial freedom and the journey to get there. So we've sourced the very best. Think modern investors, digital nomads, and social media enthusiasts who've used real estate to live life on their own terms.
So if you're just getting started or you're a seasoned pro, we're here to provide you intimate conversations, help you get the inside scoop, and talk shop with people who are killing the game in real estate. All right, so at this party, Leka and I are both the host and the guest, and so that you can get to know us a little bit better, we wanted to provide a little bit of background on our story. So Leka, can you give us just a really quick rundown of who you are and what kind of investments you focus on?
All right, guys. So I started investing in real estate back in 2014. I've done everything from fix and flips to BRRRRs to multifamily syndications and commercial office buildings. I'm also a real estate broker and I have my own lending company. So I've seen it all. Soli, what about you?
Yeah, that's amazing. You are a jack of all trades for sure. I've been investing just a little bit less of time than Leka. So I started in 2020, about 2 years ago. I'm 24 years old, so I started right out of college. And because I was living in a really high cost of living area, I started investing out of state. So my market is primarily Cincinnati, Ohio. I've built a portfolio of about 28 doors, I think, at this point. And I also quit my job. So now I'm a full-time real estate investor.
Soli, for 24 years old, that's a lot. Congrats to you. And I'm so excited to do the show with you.
Okay, let's jump into the first segment. This is one of my favorite segments called TFW. To us, that means that feeling when. And we're going to really reminisce on the feelings of when we realized that real estate was actually a viable path for life. So Leka, can you tell us a little bit about your story? When and how did you discover real estate investing?
Soli, I remember this feeling like it was yesterday. I was in my car driving to work when I heard a radio ad for a real estate investing company that was coming to do a conference in my city in Seattle. I ended up going to this conference. I only had a 30-minute gap between my work schedule, went to this conference, and I was hooked. They were talking about holding multiple pieces of real estate, fixing and flipping, building long-term wealth, passive income, legacy creation. Like, all of this was just blowing my mind. And I was like, I have to dig into this. Like, I had this calling, and within a month, I had quit my job. And within 3 months, I had my first property to flip. Like, that's how I was hooked into it. And honestly, I think, going from there and just figuring out my different obstacles, overcoming them, and churning profits repeatedly, it kind of gives you a confidence in your ability as an investor and also as a person. And so what I have created through real estate is far more than that financial freedom for me. It's also like a personal growth.
Yeah, that is such a unique story. I feel like not that many people listen to the radio anymore. They're all about the aux cord or listening to podcasts. So what a cool story that you can trace it back to a single moment where, everything changed for you.
So Soli, I have the same questions for you, What was that feeling when you realized like this was what you were going to do for the next so many years? And this was what's going to work for you.
I love your story because you can all trace it back to like one certain point where it was like, whew, epiphany. For me, it was a little bit more, I don't want to say random, but like different touch points over time that culminated in me buying my first property. So I was in college and I was joining the real estate associations in college. And I also interned at a commercial real estate brokerage firm in college. So I was always surrounded by real estate. I had a couple of friends who bought properties out of state, thought they were absolutely crazy. But it wasn't until the pandemic hit in 2020 that I guess, the world went dark and I had a lot of time to think about how I wanted to set my life up for the future. So just to set the scene a little bit, I was going into a fully commission-based job as a commercial real estate broker. And when the pandemic came, nobody was leasing office space and school didn't know what to do. And so essentially I went from working full-time and going to school full-time to nothing. And so during that time, I really made the commitment to myself that I was going to really work on putting myself up and building passive income.
I was going to different parties. I was a party girl. I was not focused on financial freedom. Like, what in your life's experience led you to say that I want to focus on financial freedom? I want to focus on building wealth. I want passive income. Why were you not at the parties, like partying like me?
I was at a different kind of party. I was at the real estate party.
Wow.
I grew up without a ton of money, and money was always a thing that my parents argued about. And so growing up, I never wanted to be in that same situation of not having money. And so I got a job at 14. I was working at a coffee shop whenever I could just to save up some more money. And then when I went in college, when I was a sophomore, I got like a job at a commercial real estate firm. So I was always in that mode of like creating, I guess, wealth for myself. But when I discovered real estate, it kind of shifted into just, making money to investing money. And how do I multiply money faster?
All right, guys, let's jump into the next part of our show. Now, we all know that the market is ever changing. And as investors, we need to be super flexible as the tides change, and we need to keep up with the trends. So let's talk about what's working in our businesses. Let's talk about what is absolutely not working, and let's talk about what's actually trending. And we call this segment the Sus, Cancelled, and Trends.
I love this segment. This is the segment where Leka and I will disagree on almost everything.
Yeah, no pressure, in a good way, You'll see two perspectives for every aspect of our business, and you'll see why we each strongly believe in our aspect.
Let's start with Sus. And so Sus stands for suspect. We're going to talk about what strategies you are not sure about right now, which are looking a little bit suspicious in the current state of the market.
For me, it's single-family rentals right now. So before I would buy a single family rental, I would rent it out, have a great interest rate on it, and then my rent would always cover my mortgage and I would cash flow like a king. Not so much anymore. With higher interest rates at 5.5%, 6% for investment properties especially, I feel like multifamily is a way better option for me.
I actually love single family properties like that, but we'll get to that later. Right now, I'm feeling most suspicious about Airbnbs or short-term rentals per se in kind of that high cost, like local destination areas. So like Gatlinburg, Big Bear, all of those areas that like really exploded during the pandemic, and, property values doubled. There was a huge flock of people trying to buy cabins there, and people were making a ton of cash flow. The heyday of buying in those areas might be a little bit past.
What strategy do you not see yourself even touching in the foreseeable future?
I think that past experiences lead to what you choose to do in the future. And so I think I'm sort of canceling very large flips right now, just because with interest rates rising and the market maybe a little bit softening in some areas and not being physically there most of the time. I think for me and how my business is set up, it's a little bit easier to do rental renovations or even smaller cosmetic flips than taking on like the full guts that I was taking on previously.
As I close on my huge reno fix and flip today, we have completely different strategies, and actually what I'm canceling in my business right now is out-of-state investing because I am not good at it. I am not good at finding boots on the ground in a different city or state. And so I am focused on those larger single family flips and renos because that's what I've really grown to do. And that's what I love to do, and that's what I'm good at.
All right, let's go to what is trending. So what are you really loving right now? What are you excited to do more of?
I think I touched on this a little bit earlier, but for me, it's the BRRRR strategy because I can use that strategy on everything from single family rentals to large multifamily. I have been fortunate enough to have a pretty good network in my location, in my area in the greater Seattle market. And what I'm able to do is find these super distressed duplexes, triplexes, quads that I can then convert to 5plexes, 6plexes. I take like existing garage space, convert that into a unit. These do take a lot of time, like a lot of time in permitting, a lot of time in construction. But at the end of it, your building appraises for so much more because of the additional rental income.
I'm a big fan. I think that you have figured out how to make it work in a high cost of living market, and I do it in a very, lower cost of living market as well in the Midwest and the Southeast. And so I think that, regardless of where you are, you can figure out a way to make the BRRRR strategy work for you and own real estate with, very little of your own money and still have a cash flowing asset. Usually when we have a guest, we will have some party favors that they put together for you. But since we are the guest today and the host, we wanted to leave you with some really actionable advice of what we wish that we would have known when we first started. So Leka, what is something that you could tell yourself when you were first starting investing?
Hold properties. It is such good advice because the first 3 years of my real estate career, I just kept flipping properties. I made a bunch of money and invested everything in. But if I had just taken some of that profit and started buying rental properties back then, I think I would have made a lot more cash flow today.
So my party favor is something I wish I knew when I first started. I was really stressed out about how I was going to fund all my deals. I was just graduating from college. I didn't have that much money. And I spent all my money on my first property. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what next? How am I going to buy my next property? And then along the way, something we can talk about maybe future episode, I discovered private capital, raising private money to fund deals. And so I realized that I could use other people's money to buy real estate and not just my own money. And it totally revolutionized how I scaled my portfolio so quickly from, 0 to 25 in 1 year. So that is something I wish that I knew. If you want to learn more about raising private capital, there's a great book by Matt Faircloth called Raising Private Capital that you can read all about it.
I love that. I have honestly scaled my business only because I leveraged other people's money. So I completely vouch for that. That's a great party favor. Thank you for that. Well, we have had such a fantastic time on this show. Soli, you are an amazing co-host, and I'm so excited to do this with you as well. Stay tuned, you guys, to see which party guests we'll be featuring next.